see is progress, but without any weakening in labor market conditions.
Welcome to Financial Stockholm. I'm Christopher Crystal, and today is Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. And these are our thoughts, or my thoughts, on what's happening in the Scandinavian market and some of Europe, and how you can benefit, or what we can see in the markets. And remember, this is not advice, investment advice that you should always take from your investment advisor, your registered investment advisor. But these are just my thoughts, and you can further develop your own strategy with your advisor. And so the focus here in Sweden is still on the US. We have the Fed talking tonight, and we'll see Fed minutes and discussion about the interest rates and what the cycle should be and how the format will continue. It's likely to be at 25 basis points. You know, many in the US have felt that the US has been in a recession for the past 12 months. And so it's may look like it's starting to emerge. Don't be confused by the January jobs report, because a lot of that is a seasonal month. And every year, January kind of gives off a different figure than the rest of the months, and that's happened in the past. If you go back and you look at the previous Januaries and how they performed and what the figures were, you get those figures, because that January would be equal to one of the best months that Trump had in the previous administration. And again, you'd see the same things happening in the Obama administration or the Bush administration or the Clinton administrations, and so forth and so on. So January typically is a kind of unusual month. And this January had the return of strike laborers, so people who had been on strike. So that would be railroad unions and farm machinery unions. These people had been on strike, and so when they return to work, they're seen as new hires, new jobs. And that may seem a little confusing, but that's how the Bureau of Labor Statistics records it. So in Sweden, we're kind of focused on the US, and this is much easier because we have political parties like the Social Demokrats and their connections to gang criminality, or our Swedish Demokrats and their connections to Noe Nazis and kind of extreme ideologies, and we don't have to focus on the energy and what our energy project will be, or lack thereof, from the Moderaterna, from the Kristian Demokrats, or from the liberals, or from the Social Demokrats, and who would shut down our nuclear reactors, but now like to say it wasn't them. We have a chance now to help Turkey. The earthquake is a terrible event, and there's at least 5,000 dead according to the latest figures. And so with the previous problems that Sweden had with Turkey and engagement there, they have a chance to maybe make amends, maybe help out, and so maybe regain some favor with the Turks. We'll see how that goes. Tensions are obviously still high, and there were some Turks burning the Swedish Prime Minister in effigy in front of the Swedish embassy. So it's not done, it's far from over. But the energy build out, with the discussion that occurred the other day, it looks to be more on the wind turbine side. That'll be the fastest build out. And there's a reduction in the process time. Personally, I'm not a fan of windmills or wind turbines. You know, they kill a lot of birds. They need a lot of replacement, especially if they're built offshore in salt water. You know, you need a higher maintenance schedule. But in terms of the wind parks and getting them up and running, if you can do it within 1 to 3 years, you have a very quick return on your money. And then you also have a very quick generation of power, which we need, because there's a plan to have about 100,000 new inhabitants to the north of Sweden. And in the north of Sweden, we have very little in terms of energy production except for hydro, and we need more nuclear, and then they're going to supplement it with wind turbine. So that'll be something that we'd look for. And I would say, as an investment cycle, the wind turbines would look at as somewhat attractive. But again, speak to your investment advisor. And then another area that's been growing of concern, and an area that could have a lot of attraction, would be the Swedish healthcare. The UK healthcare system is effectively bankrupt today. You see the same thing going on in Canada. The United States, which is a privatized system and doesn't offer any kind of universal health care, does have a Medicaid system, is also under pressure. And so what you've seen here in Sweden is a build out of privatized healthcare and the state-held healthcare. And with the same kind of problems that you have going on in England, and you have here experienced here in Sweden, like we don't have enough places for mothers who are giving birth. Don't have the actual healthcare professionals to tend to the people who are getting sick. We have a lack of them, both doctors and nurses. So we have a real problem on our hands, and the Swedish healthcare system may be something that would be under pressure. So in that sense, companies like Cree, which is KRY, and Doctor.se, and Doctor is DOKTOR, have been expanding into other European countries. These are companies that would probably be under interest and focus. Daniel Ek, who's of Spotify, he has several investments in healthcare, Cree being one of them. So these companies would probably be in continued focus. And we expect on Thursday that our Swedish Riksbank would be raising interest by 50 basis points. And that's in line with what the ECB will be doing. So we don't like to be out of step with the ECB. We like to be relatively in step. And we'll see, this will be the first test for our new Riksbank head. And so we'll get to see what happens here. But this, if we do see a 50 basis hike, this could be a sign that we're in a soft recession. It's not going to be as bad as we thought. We have the US trade figures have come in. We saw those figures were the widest gap, but increased imports. So the increased imports could offset the previous slowdown in China, so on their shipping side. And then this could also be a positive sign for the European economy. Now, we'd also like to get back into manufacturing, but you can't solve everything in one day. So we'll have to see how it goes, but we could see IPOs coming back to the market. Another sector that looks like maybe of interest would be the real estate. Of course, the housing market here in Sweden has been very tough, but we're starting to see hints of sunshine, things coming through. The rental market was going to have a very high rate hike, and in the monthly payments, and that was shot down by the courts. So it still becomes very attractive to own houses or apartments. So that market cycle will probably start to look a little different. And the more leveraged apartment companies like Castellum are seeing management shakeups. So the CEO, Rutger Arnholt, stepped down with immediate effect from Castellum today. And this is a big move and possibly a big shift in the real estate market in Sweden. So that would be something worth paying attention to and discussing. Securitas came in with pretty much in line figures. They're raising their dividend. Their market where they've seen expansion has been the US, and there's no surprise there, as the crime rate has been going up pretty much everywhere in the US. And that's an interesting figure to look at, because in the United States, in the political divisions, you have the red and the blue. Well, even in the red states, you have high rates of crime because the large cities in the red states are blue controlled. So you have the same policies in blue states as you have in blue cities in red states. So there's an increased need for security and security companies. So that's a positive for Securitas, but we'll see how that works. Pharmaceuticals could also be under focus because there's an Alvedon shortage right now. So the equivalent of Tylenol in Europe is cannot be found, and people are looking for that, especially for the babies. It's typically given to babies when they have a fever, or adults when they have fever, aches, and cramps. And so the shortage there. So this is a supply chain issue. And then again, we're looking at the Swedish Riksbank. That's on Thursday. I said tomorrow, but it should be. And then we have the Fed comments tonight. And you also have the State of the Union address from the United States with the with Biden talking about the economy, and you've seen the biggest names turning around and saying that things are getting better faster than anticipated. So this could be this globalized economy where people adjust and adopt very quickly. So that would be a positive if we've seen changes in logistics and supply chain getting better, and we could start to see a brighter future. A lot of people are talking about January as having been a short sell cover month, and that's why we saw so many of the stocks going up. And you're seeing fun terms like people are saying the market's on steroids and the market's having a party. And very often these are the same people who miss trends and want to kind of poo-poo what they've missed and shoot it down as some sort of irrational explanation. But what I would say is keep an eye on the markets, and in Sweden, we look to recover with the rest. So certainly on the energy side, you could see some very interesting scenarios there. On the security side, and speaking of security, we're still at a heightened awareness for possible terrorist attacks. We're getting help from the United States, our United States partners. They had been helping us with our criminality as well over the past summer and previous summer, monitoring our WeChat and different individuals in Sweden, and that was being done by the FBI. So we're getting terrorist notifications from them, but we'll see what happens. And overall, just remember, you can always make money in the market. There's always a trend to follow, whether that trend is going down or going up. So you can make money going short, you can make money going long, you can play options, you can play long-term investment, short-term investment. Hopefully you like the information and the channel, and you're subscribed, and we'll talk to you guys soon.